Hello and welcome on Primetime Watchmaking in the news, and again we have plenty of stuff to share with you, some product launches and some other business news. But I will immediately start by saying that if you are in New York on the 13th and 14th of October, well, I clearly invite you to attend the Watchtime show to be held at the Gotham Hall. There will be obviously quite a few watch brands there, and they will showcase their latest products, but as well as some talks and seminars that will be held on the Saturday. That's the main day of the event. And for me, the good news is that I will also be there, will be my first time. And the good news for you is that you can benefit from a rebate on the ticket prices by using a special Watches TV coupon code, but I will come back on this at the end of this video. So September 2017 will for sure be remembered in watchmaking history with the introduction of this revolutionary regulating organ developed by the LVMH Science Institute and presented in the Zenith DeFi Lab. Can't wait to do some follow-up on this great achievement, because I'm pretty sure things will move fast in terms of, firstly, how this new regulator will evolve in the near future, how it will be implemented, in which watches, price positioning and so forth. And secondly, what other crazy things are in the pipeline of Guy Sémon and his team, because I definitely got some hints that there were still some pretty hot things cooking over there. So I was of course very happy to see that this video was seen and shared a lot, loved all your interesting comments, but I would like to add that the most important point to retain about this development is that we still haven't seen it all in mechanical watchmaking. There is yet room for true and continuous innovation, and that's very exciting and inspiring, because yes, I must admit that I like and actually much prefer the poetry of a spiral. There is clearly something more organic to it, like your heart, pumping when you compare it to this kind of very shaky and almost buzzing oscillator. But again, it's such a wonderful demonstration of our human ingenuity, and this represents the continuation of where watchmaking comes from. It's a link between our past and the future, and all this through a small mechanical object you have on your wrist. I like this. This is nice. But now I really want to address a very special thank you for one of you who took the time and effort to translate the full 25-minute long interview of Guy Sémon from French to English, and therefore enabled us to propose a subtitled version of this great document for all of those not speaking French. I really can't thank you enough for this. What a great community we have on the Watches TV. I was sincerely moved by this, and the beauty of it is that it's anonymous. So whoever you are, thank you, thank you, thank you. You deserve a watchmaking medal, something we need to develop, I think. So for those interested, well, this video is available on our website, watchestv.com, because the humility and the pertinence of Guy Sémon's storytelling is simply second to none. So now let's quickly talk about business, because we've apparently seen some positive signs for the industry with some sales increases on various markets. But of course, not everyone is benefiting from this, and I believe watch brands still need to remain rather cautious and prudent. Not yet time to get overexcited, especially since many brands haven't really tackled the proper redefinition of who they are and how to translate this into new products more in line with the evolution of consumer habits and their perception of the value proposition. We've heard, for instance, that Vacheron Constantin is about to launch a very aggressively priced new watch collection and represents something that clearly goes against most of what had been done by the brand over the last few years. So looking forward seeing this new timepiece myself, this new collection. I will come back on this naturally once I've seen it. Still on the business side of things, and as we could have expected, well, things are moving quite fast at Breitling with the arrival of a new management team, which is clearly and gently taking over from the old guard. Mr. Georges Kern and his associates, and I can clearly use this word since most of these top-level positions will also be personally incentivized in the future success of the company. Well, this new team really represents some kind of powerful war machine, and I'm pretty confident they will know how to use all their experiences to redevelop the brand that was slightly sleeping in the recent years. Well, like I mentioned in the previous video dedicated to this news, well, I knew how the new investor could cut on some cost, and I will immediately come back on this. But with this new team, well, now I understand much better how they will also take care of the revenue side of the business. So coming back on some cuts, well, it's clearly a paradoxical story story since Breitling was very proud to share with us in September that they just completed their world tour with their DC-3 aircraft. This journey started in March in Geneva, and after almost 25,000 nautical miles, well, this venerable aircraft came back to Switzerland. Okay, I'm a big-time aviation enthusiast, and to participate in such an adventure is an absolute fantasy, feeling almost envious, I must admit. But I guess you can all imagine that to do something like this must have costed a freaking fortune. So Breitling was all happy about this, and they can, but I guess the party is over, and these kind of things will probably be relegated to the past. We heard, for instance, that they have just cancelled their active support, meaning the financing of the Super Constellation plane that was bearing their colors. Okay, I just love the Super Constellation. I mean, it's such a beautiful plane, and if I'm right, there are only 3 of them that are still flying around the world. But obviously this comes at a rather expensive price tag, and this program has simply been terminated. I guess this might not stop there. Well, we'll see about this in the near future. And now for some product launches, and we'll start with mb&f, who recently introduced a new clock, the Octopod. This clock is simply super cool and is done in collaboration with Lippe, who takes care of the manufacturing and assembling of these time-telling machines. And we already had seen some pretty neat objects coming from this collaboration, such as Destination Moon or Balthazar, just to name a few, but I must admit that this one is really quite something. It's quite a large object, but you can change the way it stands by playing with its 8 articulated legs. And I just love this sphere dome protecting the movement part and enabling you to position the dial side how you want it, like with the Game Boy. And another very interesting characteristic is that you will find the regulating organ of the clock standing directly on the minute hand. So that's quite original, to say the least. And these clocks come in 3 colors: black PVD, blue PVD and silver, each one limited to 50 pieces. The next noteworthy launch of the month concerns Roger Dubuis with the Excalibur Aventador S. And the brand naturally also announced at the same time their new partnership with Italian supercar maker Lamborghini. So previously Lamborghini enjoyed a pretty long partnership with Blancpain, with, for instance, the creation of a few racing series and some timepieces, of course, in the L Evolution collection of the brand. But this has now changed. No more L Evolution. This collection is over, and probably the need to cut on some costs too for Blancpain. Anyhow, this spot has now been taken over by Roger Dubuis, who are really trying to up their game in terms of perception of the brand. They would really like to go in the Richard Mille direction, but I think this territory is already pretty successfully taken. So to mark this new partnership, Roger Dubuis just presented 2 new timepieces, or to be more precise, more or less the same timepiece, but with 2 different executions in terms of material used for their cases. The movement is the same for both models and comes with a pretty original inclined double balance wheel system, featured already seen, for instance, in their spectacular Excalibur Quattro timepiece, this time with obviously 4 balance wheels. So the movement is naturally skeletonized, something that is very characteristic for Roger Dubuis, and you clearly see the sports car's engine inspiration with these kind of strut bars and other design features. The first yellow model comes in a multi-layered carbon case and is limited to 88 timepieces, and the second one in orange, also in carbon but of a different nature, is limited to only 8 pieces. So after their partnership with tire manufacturer Pirelli, which was announced earlier this year, well, I think this new partnership will probably have a slightly bigger impact for them. We'll see how they will leverage this in the coming months. Okay, so let's go back to some independent brands, as Urwerk just launched a new version of its UR105 with the UR105 CT Streamliner coming in 2 executions, a titanium polished version and a titanium black PVD version. So this model is based on the existing 105 model, and the main feature of this new version is that you have like a protecting hood top, and this lets you better appreciate the movement once open. Just a pretty cool object, I have to say, and I understand that to wear an Urwerk is a statement in itself, a personal statement that is. But another thing I quickly wanted to share regarding Urwerk and concerns something we had talked about during this summer, and that was regarding the very original collaboration with Laurent Ferrier, the traditional watch brand. Well, these two joined forces to produce a unique timepiece for the Only Watch charity auction. And though we had seen sketches and some other rendering, well, I actually hadn't seen the timepiece itself. But now it's done, and this is indeed quite a timepiece. A very nice watch, but a nightmare to film because of the superb polished finishing of the case. Almost impossible not to appear in the shot. Anyhow, this auction will take place on the 11th of November in Geneva, but till then all the watches, and there are many, well, they are all going on a world tour, and if you are in the vicinity, it's seriously worth having a look at. Still in the auction world, just wanted to mention that a new record was established at Sotheby's for the most valuable English timepiece ever sold, and as you can imagine, this is no ordinary timepiece. This watch is a Space Travelers developed by George Daniels, the legendary watchmaker, and the price reached an impressive $4.3 million, almost 3 times as much as it was previously auctioned in 2012. So quite a significant raise, but what an incredible timepiece coming from the man which marked the 20th century watchmaking history. For instance, by developing the coaxial escapement used in practically all Omega watches since many years. And finally, and on a totally different matter, I don't know if you saw this, but this year's Nobel Prize of Medicine was awarded to a US team of scientists who studied the role of our biological clock, which helps us synchronize our biological rhythm to the Earth revolution. So you see, another demonstration that we are always surrounded by the notion of time. So, okay, this is it for this edition of Primetime, and coming back on what was said at the very beginning, don't hesitate to visit the Watchtime exhibition in New York on the 14th of October, and if you want tickets, well, you can buy them directly on their website, URL below in the description box. And don't forget to apply the Watches TV code to benefit from a cool rebate. So all the very best to you, see you real soon, thank you for your time.